Asnam Ali, working as assistant professor in St. Joseph College for Women Autonomous, Visakhapatnam. Welcome to the Module 3 Cognitive Behavior Therapies and the Cognitive Therapies. Module 3 Lesson 1 is all about introduction of cognitive therapies. So let's start. What is cognitive behavior therapy? In Lesson 1, definition, the core principle on which the therapy is based, and the types of techniques we are using in cognitive behavior therapies. So, we'll start with the definition of cognitive behavior therapies. Cognitive behavior therapy is an essential topic that helps us to understand how thoughts, emotions, and behavior are connected, and how these connectedness guide the entire cognitive therapy and cognitive behavior therapy approach. Cognitive therapy is one of the most widely used, scientifically supported, and effective psychological therapies available today. In today's lesson, we will clearly understand what is a cognitive behavior therapy, how it related with our behavior, how it works, and the core techniques that therapists use to help individuals bring meaningful changes into their lives. So we are starting with the session with the definition of the cognitive and cognitive behavior therapies. CBT integrates both cognitive and behavior methods to modify unhelpful thoughts and behaviors. For example, if a student thinks, I'm going to fail this exam, this negative thought can lead to emotions such as fear or sadness, which then leads to behavior like avoiding studying or giving up completely. CBT teaches the person to recognize such unhelpful thoughts, challenge them, and replace them with more rationalized and balanced thoughts. So when a person's streams of automatic thoughts is very negative, you would expect a person to become depressed. I'm never going to get this essay finished. I have no money. My parents hate me. We all know that cognitive therapy was first introduced by Aaron Beck in 1967. How Beck explained this cognitive triad of negative thoughts. It first starts with your own self, that is the negative thought about oneself. In this slide, you are seeing that it starts with example you can take likewise, I am a social failure. It is a thought about yourself only. If you proceed toward more negative thoughts, then it becomes negative thoughts about one's experience. That is, the every encounter I have with people is a total disaster. Then, if you are not breaking that negative self-schema, it will go towards negative thoughts about the future. Things will never improve. I will never get along with people. This is the cognitive triad, or you can say automatic negative thinking described by Aaron Beck. So what do we have to do to break that cognitive triad? How can we challenge those irrational thoughts with rational pattern of thoughts? That is the negative self-schema. How can we challenge our negative self-schemas? That is the error in logic, faulty information processing. We have to change our irrational thought pattern or replace our irrational thought pattern with the rationalized thoughts. So, now we have to understand what were the Beck's assumptions behind self-schema or self-negative schema. In this slide, Beck explained that how these negative self-schemas develop and change your thought pattern. They possess a set of beliefs and expectations about themselves that are essentially negative and pessimistic. So the person who is prone to depression will develop a negative schema about every encounter in their life. So encounter can be many things like a death of a parent, sibling, school bullying, neglect, abuse, love breakup. It can be many things. Now we have to understand what is the CBT model and how it explains our situation, thoughts, emotions, behavior and consequences are connected with each other. Let us break down. This is the event or circumstance a person faces, basically the situation. So it can be something small or a major thing. For example, if someone sees their teacher walking without greeting them, one student may think, "Ma'am is absent with me," while another may think, "She must be busy." You can see how your thought pattern changes your emotions. The student who thought that "Ma'am is absent with me" might be a pessimist. That's why their thought pattern is more on negative side. While the other may think "She must be busy" is more on pessimist, optimist side. That's why their thought pattern is more rationalized one. So thought influence emotions. Negative thought usually bring negative emotions such as fear, sadness, anger. Our emotions guide how we act. If a person feels anxious, they may avoid situations, stay silent, or behave differently than usual. This is the result of the behavior. Avoidance may bring temporary relief, but in the long run, it worsens fear and decreases confidence. Together, these five components form the backbone of cognitive therapy and cognitive behavior therapy. If it will be up to your thought pattern, that is the situation, emotions, and your thoughts, then it will come under cognitive model. But when your behavior is attached with your thought pattern, then it will come under cognitive behavior model. Now we have to move forward. What are the different techniques we are using in cognitive behavior therapy? So in this slide, if you are seeing whatever I have explained till, it's clearly mentioned how situation happenings, how you are perceiving them, how they are affecting your beliefs, and how they are guiding your behavior. And ultimately, you have to face the consequences of your behavior. So we'll move towards the next slide. How can we know about our awareness of negative thoughts? In this slide, you can clearly see that there is a table in which thought 1, thought 2, thought 3 is given. So when you are working in a therapist setting with a client, how you have to guide a patient to record their negative pattern of thoughts. Likewise, if they encountered any negative thoughts at their home, how can they take a note of those thoughts? What were you doing at the time of the thought? Thought 1 will be what the patient was doing at the time of the negative thought. In thought 2, they have to mention what were the other thoughts at that time they were facing or they were thinking. And in the thought 3, they have to mention that what was the intensity of negative thought on a scale of 1 to 5. So this is how we are telling patient to record their negative thought pattern at home settings. So we can say these are the homework assignments we are giving to a patient when we are working with a patient of depression, so that we can get a better idea or awareness of their negative thoughts. It can be helpful for everyone who is experiencing a lots of negativity in their life. So we'll move towards the techniques of the therapy. Behavior activation is especially useful in cases of depression. So behavior activation is especially useful in case of depressions. where individuals withdraw from activities they once enjoyed and feel a lack of energy or motivation. Like this table you are seeing about awareness of negative thoughts. So when we are working with a patient of depression, we first have to take count of their negative thought pattern. That is the negative self-schema they developed till the time. First, we have to break that schema and to tell them to think rationalized, to think in a rationalized way. After that, we can teach them how to cognitive restructure their thoughts. Cognitive restructuring is nothing but to break down their negative self-schema or faulty thought thinking and replaces those negative or irrational thoughts with more rationalized pattern of thoughts. The pessimist view of their self will be break down slowly by telling them or by knowing them that these thoughts not gonna help them in a long run, and making them more aware of the right view of thought pattern, that is the rationalized view of thought pattern. These techniques encourages the client to identify meaning or enjoyable activities, create a schedule, gradually increase participation in positive behaviors. So the underlying idea is simple but powerful. Changing behavior can improve mood. As I earlier told you that all the things are connected in 5-point models. Situation affects the emotion, emotion affects the thought, and thought affects the behavior. And ultimately, we face the consequences. So if we are changing their thought pattern to more rationalized thought or to more enjoyable thoughts, we can change their behavior too. So when people start engaging in productive or pleasure activities, even in small steps, their emotion begin to shift positively. Let us take an example to tell you in a more elaborative way how we can be more aware of our negative thought pattern and how we can change those negative thought pattern with the rationalized thought pattern. You all heard about exposure therapy, which we are using for OCD, that is obsessive compulsive disorder, to treating anxiety disorder, phobias. Phobias can be of many kinds, and trauma related conditions. So in this method, a client is gradually exposed to a fear situation, thought, or object in a safe and controlled way. So how these model affects our thought pattern and change our thought pattern, we will see now. The exposure can be real life, that is the in vivo exposure, imagination also, and in virtual also. So why does this work? Because avoiding fear reinforces them, while gently and repeated exposure reduce anxiety over the time. We all know that if we are completely avoiding certain kind of thoughts to come into our conscious or certain kind of things which we are afraid of, that behavior or that phobia will not gonna heal us. So we have to face those fear. We have to face those negative thoughts to get out from, to come out from. Because the person learns that the fear situation is not as dangerous as they believed and they can handle it. So by the help of exposure therapy, we can help a patient to face their fears and to know more about their fears, so that gradually the fear will remove and they will face the situation which once they were afraid about. So in this slide, if you are seeing that the situation convert into a thought, that thought into a feeling, and feeling into a behavior. So in this method, a client is gradually exposed to the feared situation. We prepare the hierarchy of a feared situation. It can be in real life also, it can be imaginal or virtual also. It can be a fear situation, thought or object in a safe and a controlled way, we have to tell patient that you have to face your fear, because avoiding fears reinforces them, while gentle and repeated exposure reduces anxiety over the time. That's how the person learns that the fear situation is not as dangerous as they believe. They can handle that situation now. Moving toward the next technique, that is the cognitive restructuring techniques. I already told you the basic of cognitive restructuring techniques. Now we have to know the basic three principles of cognitive restructuring technique. That is the identify negative, irrational or automatic thoughts first. Examine the evidence for and against them. Develop more realistic and balanced thoughts. Let us understand with the help of an example. I always fail at everything. Thought of challenging helps the person ask, is this always true? What evidence support this thought? What evidence contradicts it? What would I tell a friend who said this? This process reduces emotional distress and helps the person think in healthier and more adaptive ways. So in technique 4, I already explained the homework assignment, how it looks. Homework is an essential part of cognitive behavior therapies. Homework assignments may include thought records, behavior logs, activity scheduling, practicing relaxation, exposure task, challenging negative thoughts, writing triggers and responses. This technique empowers the client to apply CBT principles in their daily life. This is how the principles of cognitive and cognitive behavior therapies help a patient to manage their negative pattern of thoughts and become independent in managing their thoughts and behaviors. Correct disordered thinking pattern. Homework assignments helps them to build consistency and reinforce learning. So together, they help individuals to break the cycle of negative thoughts, unhelpful emotions, and problematic behaviors. So let us summarize the sessions. CBT is a structured and goal-oriented therapy. It focuses on the relationship between the thought, emotion, behavior, and consequences. By using behavior activation and exposure therapy, thought challenging, homework assignment, we can challenge our negative thought pattern and replace them with more rationalized and new thought pattern. So if you can change the way you can think and behave, you can change the way you feel. Let us wrap the session here now. So bye for now. We'll meet in the next session, that is the module 3, cognitive and cognitive behavior therapies, lesson 2, different types of cognitive behavior therapies. Thank you guys.